Hi, Sister Moms. While we hope that you enjoy listening to the Four Moms podcast and find it helpful, it is not intended to replace a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. If you have questions about finding a mental health provider, please email us at fourmoms827@gmail.com and we will send you a list of resources.
We are Four Moms, a platform intended to uplift and empower those who listen so that they find their voice, seek healing, and recover their strength. It is our hope that in tuning into Four Moms, you find a community full of laughter, thought provoking conversation, and you see a little bit of yourself in each one of us because we are four daughters, four women, and four moms here for you.
Hi, Sister Moms. Welcome back. Come on in. We're so excited to reconnect.
Hi, Sister Moms. It's season 2. We're back. And we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. So, our question for today's topic is, what were the first 6 weeks like after birth for you? So we're going to roll a dice and we're going to say, Kalima, hats off to you first.
Cool. I felt I was going to go first. I felt that. So, ooh. So for me, I have 2 children. So 2 boys. They're 2.5 years apart. So like the first baby prepared me for sure for the second one. But my first one was like way easier, I would say. Like he, it was challenging in terms of like trying to breastfeed without any knowledge or any support of breastfeeding ever, and no family members have ever done it. Just going in it blind, just trying to like literally leaning into Facebook groups and support groups from other Facebook moms to help me through it. So that was like the hardest part of it. And then I also, long story, I had 3 foster children at the time when I brought my baby home from the hospital. They had a crisis while I was in the hospital. So it was just like crazy, but that's like not the norm, obviously. So my second experience was very different. But I would say in general, just like I felt weird. I felt really paranoid. I felt very anxious. I felt like my baby wasn't breathing all the time. I was worried about SIDS, having a black boy, like they freak you out before you leave. So between that and just trying to like micromanage who's coming to my house to see the baby, are you washing your hands? And this is pre-COVID, right? My baby's 6 now. So, but I was, just super, super paranoid and like very rigid with the first baby. Second baby, I was like, we're going outside at the second week. Like we're going to the park to get some germs. Because I had a 2.5-year-old at home, a toddler who's like, who is this human that you brought home and why? And I guess trying to breastfeed him again, and he was a colicky baby. So dealing with that, I had to get out and get fresh air because I would have literally lost it. So 2 really different experiences, 2 different dramatic experiences. So I think every baby coming home is different, and you have your own set of things that happen. But I think I definitely learned, I would say with the second time, I really felt like, okay, this is real parenting at this point, because now not only do I have this toddler human that I have to take care of and still show attention to, but now I have this newborn that's screaming his head off, and he screamed for 6 months straight after that. So it wasn't 6 weeks, it was 6 months, okay? And I had to go back to work after eight weeks of having him, and we'll go through that. Thankfully, I work remotely, but it still was me having to hop on meetings and smile and take a shower and, like put a nice face on. So, yeah, not to go too long, but that was my life. So I'll pass it over to Earth.
Well, so my first 6 weeks, actually, my water broke the day of my baby shower. So my first day came home with my baby. I had baby shower gifts everywhere. I thought I was going to be sorting my house out. I had it all organized before I left for my shower. And I was like, all right, things are, because you guys know how I'm a planner. So I had everything good. And I came home and I just cried because I was like, what's going on? And I believe, Shanique, you called, Dr. Lamb, you called me and you were like, it's okay, I'll be over. She came over, she washed Luna's clothes for me. And then her and another friend of ours came over the next day to help me acclimate to things because I had a 3rd-degree tear. So sitting down hurt. And just your body just hurts. Like you feel like you just got ran over by a truck. So I was just in like pain, and it was just a lot that first couple of weeks. And Luna's first appointment, the doctor actually asked me, how was I doing? And I just cried. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just standing here. So, but after like, I cried it all out those first weeks, every week just kept on getting a little bit easier and easier. Family came over on the weekends. It was mostly me and my husband here during the week. And then I was just like, let me just figure out some type of schedule that helps me function every day and to shower every day and just to get through the day with her. But she was a pretty good baby. Like, she didn't cry. She fed like clockwork. And regarding breastfeeding, she wouldn't latch, and I wasn't producing when I left the hospital. So we had to formula feed her some food until I figured out the whole pump situation. And that's a whole thing you have to learn and deal with. And they definitely need more classes before you go into having a baby, because you don't learn like the proper ways to pump. Like you could over pump and really like hurt your boobs. And it was just a very intense 6 weeks. But once I got over that hurdle, I was able to breathe and figure out my life and her life and his life. And the funny thing, once my husband got done with maternity leave, I was much happier too, that he was gone, so I could figure out my life.
Get out the way.
Yeah, basically. Basically. But what about you, Dr. Lamb?
So as you all were talking, I was trying to think about how to describe that first 6 weeks. I'm like, I felt like I was in the movie Bird Box. Like somebody dropped the baby in my hand and blindfolded me, and I was walking around like, what do I do? How do I find, my way around? There was just so much going on and so many things that I didn't even expect. So I ended up having an emergency C-section because my son didn't tolerate labor well, and his heart rate dropped significantly, and it was very scary. We thought we were going to lose him. So we had the emergency C-section. And so recovering from that, not being able to fully stand, and for the first, I want to say week or so, being stuck on the 2nd floor of my house because I couldn't go up and down the stairs, that was really tough. So I think physically, I was just in a really uncomfortable and painful space. And, you can't take any pain medication because you're nursing. And then for some reason, I thought that nursing was just going to come easy. Like, I was like, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. I'm just going to pop him on and he's going to figure it out and I'm going to figure it out and, to be all good. But that's not how it went. He had a tongue tie. So nursing him was painful initially. And we went back and forth about like, should I be nursing or not because of the tongue tie, because it was so painful. But he was able eventually to extend his tongue over his lip, thankfully. So we were able to continue nursing. But I remember maybe 2 weeks in, my nipples were so sore and I was so uncomfortable. I called a hotline for breastfeeding at the hospital, and the lady said, hello. I was like, I need help. Like, I just started crying. I didn't even know who this woman was. I was home alone with the baby. And I just started crying. I told her, I was like, it's been 2 weeks and I'm so sore and I don't know what to do. And she's like, sweetie, it is okay. She's like, let me in. And she coached me. I don't know who she was again, but she told me, she's like, I had 3 boys and they were such big eaters. And I know he's probably nursing a lot. She was just explaining to me what I'm seeing, because if you understand what you're seeing, then it helps, a little bit in like tolerating it and managing it. So she, educated me about cluster feeding and growth spurts and comfort nursing. And like, she really took her time with me on the phone. And, I think at one point I told her I'm so close to giving up. She's like, don't give up. She's like, come see me. So I went to the hospital and met this woman. And, after that meeting, everything just kind of fell into place. I felt like re-energized, and she really poured into me. So that was really helpful. But the other interesting thing that happened to me in that 6 weeks is that I did not know you could develop preeclampsia after delivery. I didn't know you could get high blood pressure after delivery. So I had no issues during the pregnancy with, diabetes or blood pressure. So I thought I was healthy. Then again, we're 2 weeks in or 2.5 weeks, and a nurse comes to the house just to check on us from the hospital. And she checked out Cairo. She said, he looks great. And she's like, all right, mama, sit down. Let me take your blood pressure. And she's like, oh my God, your blood pressure is so high, you could have a stroke. You have to go to the hospital right now. I was like, well, I'm not going without my baby. So, tell me what my options are. She tried to convince me to leave him home. And I said, no. So they agreed to treat me in the maternal fetal ward. So where women are who are recovering from birth, they let me go there and treat the blood pressure, which was amazing. So he was in the room right there with me, and we stayed there to figure it out. But I was just like, my body is going haywire. I never had high blood pressure. Now I'm on medication, and yeah, it was a lot going on, but in the midst of it, I think I had like a lot of great women to check in with and family support. And my husband was doing his thing too. And then, in the moments where where I felt really weak and I was like, I don't know if I'm doing a good job. That's when Cairo would look at me and smile or make some kind of noise. And, I'd smell him and he smelled like a fresh new baby. So it made it like, worth it. And, if you make it past that 6 weeks, things get a lot easier. You get your own routine and you figure it out.
I have a quick question. I know you have to go, Lisa, but your hospital sent someone to your house?
Yes, girl.
Right.
Yes, girl. Virtua Voorhees. They send a nurse to your house.
Wow.
Like a week or two after you deliver, just to check on you. So the nurse comes in and assesses the baby, weighs him. And
like
she
a midwife back in the day.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. And I didn't expect that. They didn't tell me about that at discharge. I just got a call from her that, the hospital was sending her. And I said, okay, come on in. And she even taught me some cool tricks. She taught me the butt tap that calms babies down, because Cairo was a little bit fussy. He had reflux. And while she was there, she's like, you're a wild one. And she just started doing the butt tap, and he just wiggled and calmed down. I was like, okay. So we started that after that.
That's so cool. In your story, I hear like you really advocated for yourself. Like if you don't advocate for yourself and, like you said, know your resources or just calling a hotline, like that could make or break a mom really being, hitting a really lower point, like reaching out for help. Nothing wrong with that. So that is just, amazing. I think, knowing your resources, right? Doing your research and then advocating for yourself, especially when you said, I'm not going here without my baby. Like, you need to make something work. Because if you did, he probably, that little bit time away when you're nursing can literally break the nursing relationship. You didn't know how long you were going to be in the hospital. So I tip my hat to you, because that's amazing. So
thank you.
So I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Before I get started, I have to put on my public health official hat real quick and say it's important to know how to advocate for yourself. And even if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, having someone available or around you to advocate for you. And then the second part is resources. If you are a first-time mom, I think this is across America, but definitely in New Jersey, there's a program called Nurse Family Partnership that you can go online and sign up for if your doctor does not refer you for it. And they send out a nurse to you before you have the baby. So from like your very first, you're pregnant in the hospital, like I was at 5 weeks appointment, to the year that your child's second birthday, you will be assigned a personal nurse that will come out and teach your family all that you need to know about pregnancy, labor, delivery, childcare, early childhood education, routines, bedtime, everything. And my nurse was Tisha Bright. Shout out Tisha. I love her so much. I love Nurse Family so much. I did my internship for my public health degree with Nurse Family Partnership. It is a great organization. Definitely look into it. So putting on my mommy hat.
Good info. Thank you.
No problem. Post the links on our social media pages. So the first 6 weeks for me. So I just talked about that program, right? And I'm a Gen X, I think, right? Millennial. And I watch a lot of
call themselves.
We're millennials too, by the way.
Right. I was like, ain't
like by here, right?
We're millennials with traditions.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We
Technically,
gonna
are.
go with that one. Okay. But, I watch a lot of TV, and I had this nurse tell me all these beautiful things about when the baby comes, and I had said baby, and it wasn't like anything I watched on TV, and it wasn't like anything that she said it would be. And it's only like in a mental regard for me. I had a really easy delivery. I was up and back to normal within 24 hours. I went home like the next day after my delivery, and I was like, oh, we need food. Let's go food shopping. Like, I was like, good, right? But then all of a sudden, like, my breast were like leaking milk on a pillowcase. I didn't know, like, some people, people tell you don't wake a sleeping baby, and some people say you need to wake up the baby to feed. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just don't know what to do. I'm just like leaking milk everywhere. Like, will it stop? Please make it stop. I'm trying to take a shower, and then every time I turn the water on, it's like, but this baby's like knocked out sleeping, and like I'm the only one in the house. So then it's like running back and forth to the shower to bedroom. Like, are you awake? And like, naked with bubbles and a towel wrapped around you. Like, okay, let me finish this bath. And then it was just like crazy. Like, and then did you know phantom kicks were real? Like,
yeah,
I'm like, they leave a baby inside of me? Like, what's
I don't think I had that.
just like phantom cries, like that idea that your body's telling you the baby's crying, but they're not really crying. It was like a phantom kick. And like, I had it up until she was about 3 months old. And I'm like, did they forget a baby in there? Like,
Uh-oh.
do I have 2 uteruses or something like that? I was really like Googling this. Like, I was very curious, and my doctor was like, chill out, you're fine. Kalima, my breastfeeding angel, came by and saved the day. I think Abby was like day 5 or day 6. And I mean, this is definitely pre-COVID, but this speaks to her as like a person in cleanliness. She came by, she was like, I don't want to come in because I have germs and it's a newborn baby, but do you need anything? Oh, by the way, here's a big old breastfeeding basket. I was like, what's this? She said, trust me, you gonna need it. I was like, oh, okay. I got a little pillow from her. I was like, girl, I didn't even know I had to prop the baby's head up. I was just like laying her down and she just choking. So I was like, yes, put her at an angle so that the milk can like digest and not spill out and get crusty neck. I was like, it's just so much stuff you never knew. And I read a lot of books, so I understand what's going on. And then I remember Kalima was done dropping off all the things, and she got back in the car, and this is when I actually took the first shower, and she was like, oh my God, I forgot to ask you if you needed me to watch her while you get in the shower. And I was like so hesitant. I was like, I don't want to say yes because I know she just left and she didn't want to come in because of the germs, but like, I can't take a shower without thinking that this baby is crying. Like, what do I do, Lord? But then it's like, am I leaving my kid with somebody? And like, I love Kalima and I know Kalima and I've been alone with Kalima kid, but she's just 5 days old. No, I'm okay, girl. I'm okay, girl.
I've been dealing with Alisa for a long time, y'all.
It was just so much going on. And then a real quick point about Kalima, what Kalima said, so this happened to Kalima within 2 children, but this happened to me within 6 weeks. She was like she reminded me about this commercial. I think it was a Love's diapers commercial, where it's like how you are with the first child versus how you are with the second child.
Yeah.
That happened to me within the first 6 weeks. I was like, you know what? This is why we get vaccinated.
Basically.
This is why you don't live in a bubble. So like, I'm just gonna lick this pacifier and put it back in your mouth because nobody got time to get up and run to the kitchen to wash this off. So, we're gonna pray over it and you're gonna be good, right? And she's, for the most part, she was good. Breastfed babies tend to have less illnesses or sickness, throughout their lifetime. So, I was definitely banking on that little piece of fact. I picked breastfeeding. And a lot of people say, oh, I breastfed because of the connection. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. I breastfed because it was cheap and free. And I breastfed because ain't nobody got time for the doctor. So boob a day keeps the doctor away, right? But then something on Dr. Lamb's point about the tongue tie, they said that Abigail kind of sort of had a tongue tie, but didn't want to bring it out. So within the first like 3 weeks, it basically turned to like effortless breastfeeding. Because I had like an oversupply to like, ow, girl, you like gumming me. Like, what's going on here? It's not working. And did you know about these things called nipple shields?
Yes.
Yeah. Mhm.
Whoa, life. So I was like, you just gonna have to use a nipple shield and help bring that tongue out until you get used to bringing it out on your own, because I'm not a bottle and you're not gonna be gumming the life out of me. Like, this hurts. Like, it hurts. I'm bleeding. I'm cracking. I'm chapping. Like, it hurts. And we have to do this because, again, it's free. So we're going to learn how to do this. And I think, like, I wrote down breastfeeding hotline because I definitely want to look into that. But like, I know a lot of people that had babies the same year as I did that were not successful with breastfeeding. I'm thinking, like, wow, if someone had like the nurse that I had, or the lactation consultant, or even the breastfeeding hotline, that experience could have been like completely different,
Mhm.
right? Um, but lastly, why it's not like how it was on TV. Everybody left me. I thought you have a baby and like everybody come and stay at your house and help you take care of said baby.
Nope.
I
I
was like,
thought
what
that too.
the? My mother went to work the next day. I was like, and I was at her house.
Yeah.
She was like, come stay at my house after you have the baby so I can help. But then she got up and went to work. I was
I
like,
help.
what's going on here? So week one, we spent by ourselves in a house, and I was like, I need to take showers on a daily basis. Like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I can't take
Mhm.
10-second showers because I think she's crying. Week two, we came to South Jersey to see her Yaya, which is her godmom. And that's when I was like, I'm only here if she needs to be fed. Other than that, I'm going to sleep. And that was amazing. Week three, I was like, I need to get back to work. I can't be in the house. So I went back to work. My doctor was very hesitant, but I've always had a sit down job and, again, easy delivery. So he was like, okay, but make sure you take it easy. And, he was okay. My boss was okay. And I was like, okay, great. I'm getting out the house, going back to work. I found someone that I trusted that did like an in-house daycare to keep Abigail when I went back to work. And I was like, that 6 weeks turned into 3 weeks because I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. And our next topic is like why I couldn't do it anymore. But our topic for today is postpartum depression and returning back to work.
Mhm.
So I guess since I'm talking, I can just okay.
Yeah.
Go
So
on ahead.
so one thing about postpartum depression is that I didn't know that it can start like later on or present itself later on, but then I also didn't know what signs of postpartum depression meant. So even though I had this nurse and she was checking on me and I was going to my OB appointments and I still saw my nurse after the baby was born, I think I was passing all of the postpartum depression quizzes. Like, if you ever notice that sometimes doctors like ask you questions to gauge depression, I didn't realize that until like literally this year when I turned 26. But,
I don't know if they did it as much though back then. I think they do it more now. I don't know if they did it as
oh
much.
no, they did it a lot. They did it a lot because I was talking to my nurse about it recently, and then she was like, "It's so hard to gauge whether or not someone is falling into depression or if someone is just really okay and ready to move on to the next part." And that's kind of where I was falling into at first. I was like, I was physically okay, so I was pushing myself to be mentally okay, and me rushing to get back to work was a sign that I'm not happy with what I'm currently dealing with at home and I needed an escape. And I didn't think about it like that until I thought about the me saying, "Oh, I got postpartum depression really late." But no, now that I'm like getting help for like my postpartum depression, it's like all these little things were signs of the postpartum depression. Just little things like I didn't really want to care for her that second week she was born. I was really like, leave me alone. I need to go to sleep. Bring her here if you want to feed her. But other than that, just I don't want to be bothered. And I was really overactive pumper because I would have rather given her a bottle of breast milk than to even like hold her to my boob. And that was like a lack of connection that I wanted. But like as my nurse and doctors were seeing it was, oh well, you're getting ready to go back to work. So it falls in between that gray area, whether or not are you depressed or are you just ready to like tackle what's next in life.
I could definitely agree with that because I didn't care for breastfeeding. Like my wrist started hurting me too, like holding her, the whole pillow situation, because I didn't use a pillow in the beginning either. And I was like, why did my wrist hurt like I've been typing 500 hours? And I was like, but I think breastfeeding are for certain types of people. I did not care to breastfeed. I did not care to sit there and just have her eat. And I don't consider that postpartum depression, but just that I like to get up and move. So me sitting there for that long was just not what I wanted to do.
Girl, move.
And plus my ass hurt because I had a 3rd-degree tear.
Girl, you know what we did? We was breastfeeding. I had a tear too. But breastfeeding, I done cooked the whole meal.
Yes, for her.
Ran track.
I put Kyra on a baby carrier and let him eat as I was doing stuff. So like the soft ones,
nipple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the soft ones that you can wrap around you. He would be going to town, and I'd be like making dinner or doing laundry, sweeping my.
Yeah, but for me, I think it was more.
Did not like those carriers.
I think it was more postpartum depression for me because I just didn't want to like touch her. I didn't want to have her. Like I didn't want to like hold her or anything. And I pride myself on this, but then I look back and say, oh, another sign of probably the postpartum depression is that Abigail was good at sleeping in her own crib by herself within the first 6 weeks. And that was really because like, I was like, you're in your crib and you need to go to sleep. And I was really tough, like it's a cry it out type of thing until you learn how to just fall asleep on your own. But it was also because I didn't want to deal with it. And then when I really like realized I was like depressed was, I think she was about 6 months old. And I was like, I had a lot of other things going on too. I'm still a college student, still a full-time, you know, employee, things like that. And now I have this 1-year-old that I was supposed to be raising with a partner that I'm now divorced from and things like that. And I had a lot going on. I was young. Well, I still am, but I was younger. And
petty.
I'm over the hill, right? But I was like 6 months. When she hit 6 months, I was like, I can't do it anymore. Like I can't, like I love her and I want the best for her, but I am not what's best for her right now because I'm not capable of doing what she needs right now. I'm not capable of giving her the love or the attention or the care that she needs. And I had to say, you know, like, unfortunately, I do watch TV, I do read books, and I do see like how postpartum depression can manifest itself. And that's never my intention. Like I never want to intentionally hurt my child. And I thought in my mind, like the best way to avoid that is to send her with someone that I know would care for her the way that I love her until I can care for her like that as well. And she ended up living with her Yaya until she turned maybe 11 months. So that was a good 5 months that she was away from me. But in that 5 months, I started therapy. I finished my bachelor's. So I had less on my schedule. And then I had time to say, okay, like, I need my baby. And like, even in those 5 months, I would see her Yaya would come pick up breast milk. And when she would come to South North Jersey, I would see her, things like that. But I needed that time to just get a bearing on things. And I got over that hump. And then, so she's going to be 5 this year. And about maybe 2018, I feel like another bout of postpartum depression happened. So that was another thing, like, because now my kid is 3. So is it still postpartum depression or is it just depression about being a parent? But my doctor and my therapist agreed it's still kind of postpartum depression about like, am I doing enough for my kid to thrive? And like, it's one thing to let a kid survive, right? Like we see kids surviving all the time, but like, is she able to thrive in the world that I'm creating for her? And for me, it was not necessarily like I'm not providing enough for her, but I was trying to overcompensate for the things that I thought she lost, that she doesn't have any idea of what she has lost, right? And that really helped me like to put things in perspective. And now we're like, okay, and she gets on my nerves like a regular amount of 5-year-olds get on nerves. But that's my baby and I love her. But postpartum depression is real. I think it needs to be talked more in like the Black community. I think that doctors and healthcare providers need to be more forthcoming with that information. I also think that part of our jobs as professionals and moms are to be able to help provide resources for people like that, because even when I was seeking help, I was like, oh, I just need a therapist. But like, I specifically needed someone that was dealing with or specialized with postpartum depression, because a regular therapist would be like, oh, but you're just doing what you can. But I needed someone to say, you're a mom and moms have these feelings, and these feelings can be addressed by doing X, Y, and Z. And these feelings are normal. And I needed someone to really talk to me like that. But yeah, that's my postpartum depression.
I want to validate your concerns and fears about, am I doing enough as a parent? Is my child thriving and really enjoying life? I think that's something that a lot of parents worry about. But we can all attest to how amazing Abigail is and how great of a mom you are.
Yeah.
She is so intelligent. She is so sweet. She's so creative and talented, with her dancing and swimming. So bravo to you.
Yes.
The other thing that I want to share is that even if you're not as a caregiver, as a parent, as a mom, if you're not in a space where you think you have postpartum depression, but you notice that you don't feel like yourself, it's okay to acknowledge that, right? Because most women experience baby blues, right? Like it may not be clinical depression, but you don't feel like yourself because you just went through a really big transition. You went through, labor and hormonally things are not the same. Physically, things are not the same. Your life has literally been changed forever after having a child. So it's likely that you're going to feel something. So I just want to encourage women to give themselves permission to feel something, because I think we get into trouble when we defend against everything. We're like, no, I'm happy. I have to be happy. This is a blessing. It's true. It is a blessing, but it's okay to have some tough days. It's okay to have a day where you need a break. It's okay to acknowledge that I want some help, and it's okay to accept that help. So one of the things I think I struggled with was accepting help. My dad, my son was his first grandkid, so he was at my house almost every day, and we were just like hanging out. He would tell me, daughter, go upstairs, go to sleep. I got the baby. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to leave you guys. So he'd come over and I'd be cooking, and then I never rested. And then nighttime would come, and then I'm up all night. And then I did other weird things too, like trying to stay up on purpose to watch him sleep and make sure he's breathing.
Yeah.
I think every mom has had that night.
I would be sitting there watching him like, I got you, I'm watching. But what I learned is that you gotta say yes. When someone says, do you need a nap? Even if you don't need the nap, go and be quiet, right? Go and sit in a quiet room and sit still and stop
Put
thinking.
yourself on timeout.
Yes. So take advantage of all that stuff. Know that, it's okay to accept the help and to slow things down.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's still my problem. I don't accept help from people with my kids. I'm just very guarded with that, the superhero mom that's supposed to just do everything. And it's like, no, you're going to get burned out. Your body's going to literally shut down. Like literally last week, and my kids are older, 3 and 6. And last week, I literally felt depressed physically for no reason. Like nothing triggered it, not that I'm aware of. And I just felt tired and just wanted to lay in the bed and just felt really sad and down. And I was like, what is going on with me? But it's because I'm just doing way too much. So even after the 6 weeks and even further on, like Anissa was sharing, you have to be in check and in tune with your body and your mental health as a mom. And if you're not, it will show up. Even if you're just snapping on your kids more or whatever the case may be, it's going to show up. But one thing I wanted to point out, and it was funny, I think Anissa was saying that a lot of people of color, specifically Black communities, don't talk about postpartum. But when I think about my grandmother, she had 9 children, but other grandmothers that I know that had multiple kids, or maybe just one child, whatever the number is, I've often heard stories about they had their baby and then they sent the baby down south. The baby went down south to stay with family. Because it's what was going on during that time that the baby had to go down south with the grandmother or with the great grandmother. But it just makes me think, they were suffering too, with so many issues. We have no idea what they were up against, way deeper than what we're dealing with. We have technology. So this is easier. We could Google what happens when your baby, whatever, that. The Google life helped us, through parenting, I think, or at least me. But not to go on and on, but I know that it's been a thing. It's been real. The baby blues, as they call it, has been a thing. I think we just have trouble sometimes identifying it, or we talked about, not having the supports in place to help us through it, or to even just notice when somebody's off. So checking in with your friends, family that have just had babies, mom and dad, I think is important. And then one last thing I wanted to share, which is probably oversharing, but I had a really low libido. So I had a low sex drive for almost 2 years. Like I didn't want to be touched. I was not interested in my husband, like at all. I was just wanted my baby near me. I know breastfeeding sometimes has that factor. Like sometimes it does reduce like different hormones and things they say. And I did breastfeed for 2 years. And after that, I was like, all right, make baby number two, once he got the boob. So maybe it has something to do with it. But, just like checking in and if you are married or have a partner, like making sure that y'all still exist, after the baby is difficult. Like it's way easier said than done because that baby becomes your world. So that's me.
So regarding me and postpartum, so I feel like I wasn't really depressed, but I had a lot of anxiety about like everything. And was I doing enough? Was I waking up at the right time? Was I feeding her at the right time? Do I have enough milk for today? So typically when I'm anxious, I don't really I'm not a person that like is jumpy or everywhere. I just kind of like sit and I can just I focus on one thing for a very, 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 very long time. And until I process it in my head, I won't do anything. So I would say a lot of my postpartum was me stressing and thinking and being up late at night. So I would probably wake up an hour before I had to feed Luna just to sit and process. I'm gonna feed her and then I'm gonna change her. So I was focused on what do I do in the 3 hours that she's the 3 or 4 hours that she's napping for me to feed her the next time. So I was just processing that every single day, and to the point where I was just literally not sleeping well. So when finally my family came over, they were coming over every weekend. So I had to be with Luna Monday through Friday. Slowly I started to get out of it, but the anxiety was a lot, and me going to a lot of moms groups. So the hospital that I gave birth at, they didn't have a woman come to your house, but they did promote the moms group because there was a lactation nurse there. So my first meeting there, she helped me breastfeed, and then the topic was about actually postpartum and baby blues. So it kind of helped me processing and getting all of that out. And then I'm okay, I poured out my pitcher and I was ready to fill my cup back up. But it just gave me okay, all these moms are dealing with the same thing. I'm not going crazy. So me going there every week and kind of processing what I did this week or whatever the topic was really helped me get out of that, knowing that I'm normal. This is normal. A lot of moms go through this. I'm not the only one. It was different races, different cultures, different ages. So that helped a lot. But thinking about what you said, Kalima, about sending your kid down. So that happened a lot to me. In the summertime, I always went to my grandmother and my aunt's house. They don't live in the South. They lived in Monroe, but it was country back then. So,
yeah.
But I would say that it was more of a village back then. You didn't have to worry about who was going to take care of your kids if you had something to do. Your aunt, your grandmother, your sisters, everyone just helped you to raise your kid. And we don't have that anymore. And unfortunately, because I feel America really focuses on work, Americans have to work until you die, basically. Yeah. That they don't value family and those connections that you need, being a new mom, being a family, just to get that support, because it does take a village. You can't do this on your own. And I feel sometimes because we don't have that, we tend to trust in people that we wouldn't trust in normally.
Yes.
And sometimes as a parent, that kind of hurts you because you trusted in someone that you thought that was going to help you, and then they're not there for your family. So it kind of puts you in a place where can I trust myself on who I enter into my family or kick out of my family? So I wish that things were different, and I do want that village for my daughter. I want to be able to send her to someone's house and not worry. And I know that she's safe and she's well. But, in this society now, because everyone just so driven, and there's so much things going on in the world that you just don't know anymore. And I think that also could play a part in a lot of women's postpartum.
Yes. Yeah. Before we had community, I live in a small block in Cranford, but it was a multicultural block, just one block. And they raised us. like, you know, like those neighbors would come out and beat you if they had to. Not that I ever got beaten, but just my mother didn't play that. But just saying, like, you know, like they would be like yelling at, go home, you know, street lights are on, get your butt home. Since I lived there from 5 years old, and without that community and village, I wouldn't be me, you know. So we have to literally create that for ourselves. We have to charge ourselves to keep that going, because it will end just because of technology, social media. Like people feel, and I know COVID is in the way, but even outside of that, even getting on Zooms, I know Zoom burnout is real, but even getting on Zooms with our kids and things like that, just to keep that community, for them to see another child, you know, like stuff like that. And just to talk through these issues. I mean, I really hope it's beneficial to our listeners, because, you know, I think Earth was saying, like, you're not alone, you know, like somebody has been through what you've been through. And I think a lot of moms, especially me, I shamed myself, and that created me trying to be perfect as a mom. And I wasn't being realistic with my struggles or where I was, you know, because I'm just trying to put on like I'm doing the perfect mom. I have it all together. And a lot of self-blame and shame came with parenting, not necessarily the first, you know, few weeks or so, but just in general. You know, and then like you get into comparing your child with other people. Like you have to be careful of that stuff, especially when they're little, because every baby's different, you know.
Yes.
But it's real, right? Especially with social media, I think it's a real thing. Like on my baby set up at 1 week, my baby sleep, you know, or my baby's in the crib, sleeping in the crib, he ain't crying, you know, like, oh well, my baby's still in the bed, you know, I'm still, what is it called, co-sleeping, whatever it's called. You know, so all that like judgment that we take on is just like we're putting way too much pressure on ourselves, and just using that community, using the resources, it'll, like, once you tap into that, it lets you know clearly from all our stories that you're not alone. So.
Yeah. And I would say my mom's group that I am in, like we all are on this group right now. And someone always brings another mom in, like almost like every other month. I'm like, who else is having kids during this time? But it's great. It's like 14 of us. I don't know everyone, but it's great. But it's weird because like every so often they'll be like really nice, and then like someone will put a text in there, like, and I'm just like, what happened to your baby? And I'm just like, did I go do that? And the fact that mom feels okay to even tell us all of that, I'm very thankful. And I also make sure that I read it a couple of times, because it's very easy to be judgmental. It's very easy to put like, well, as a mom, I did this.
Yes. Yes. So
because
true.
you also want to boost, like, you know, I'm a great mom. And I'm gonna show you how much I'm a great mom. So it's so funny because like we tend to have like side groups too, because certain people are dealing with this, certain people are dealing with that. But like just having that community is the biggest thing, especially dealing with postpartum, any type of mental health issues regarding, you know, pregnancy and taking care of your baby. Just pregnancy in general is just hard. Just hard. Too many changes, too little time.
Yeah, and to piggyback, not to like take over, but I think simple things, right? Like how you delivered your baby. People would get judgy about that. Like, oh, I had a C-section. I delivered natural. I ain't take no epidural. Like, okay, you want an award? The baby came out the coop. So relax. You know, so it's like, why are we in competition over this? Or why are we feeling bad because we had to have an emergency C-section, or our birth plan didn't work out? The baby is here and the baby is safe. Or if you breastfed, or if you formula fed, the baby's fine. I was formula fed. I'm fine. I ain't missing nothing, you know? So it's like, as long as the baby is healthy and alive, we are good, you know? So that's something that we put so much pressure on, like you said, or just comparing or just sharing that you feel judged, or people are actually judging you. So.
Yeah. Kalima, I remember, sorry, Alnisa, did you want to jump in?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I remember asking, like texting a lot of moms, so when did your child sleep through the night? Like, I was telling them, they like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So I was looking at Kyra like, what's up? Like,
bruh.
6 weeks old, bruh. Like,
what's good?
What's
come
going on?
on, like, okay, now we at 8 weeks. What's up with that schedule? I'm trying to do the schedule. And then it just got to a point where, and then I was listening to like, you know, some of the older school moms, like mine, who my mom was like, you guys were perfect. You gave me no trouble. you slept through the nights. You never slept with me. You know, like everything was perfect. I was
Right.
like, okay.
I was told I was a perfect child.
Yeah. I was like,
Same.
okay. You know, so I was stressed about that. But then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? We'll get a schedule. When we get a schedule, you know, I'll do as much as I can without stressing this baby out and stressing myself out. And the other thing that I ran into that I was surprised by is that I was a little depressed that my birth plan didn't work out, because I went in like, you know, I went to all these natural birth classes and I went in saying I'm going to do it. And when I got to the hospital, I was induced and given Pitocin, which is a hell of a drug, Pitocin. It kicked my butt up and down the hall. Okay. The nurses kept asking me, are you sure you don't want an epidural? I was like, yeah, I don't want it. And they told me, they said, well, we're watching the monitor for the strength of your contractions. And right now you're only six centimeters dilated, but your contractions are that of, you know, where you should be pushing. So they're very strong. So I hung in there as long as I could. I think 6 hours. And then the heart rate started dropping. People were running into the room, putting stuff all over me. Like, you know, we had to do what we had to do. But I'm telling people that I had an emergency C-section. Can you believe some people responded like, oh, are you sure you had to have one? Like, were you there when my baby's heartbeat went boop? You know, like, and then
Right.
another boop, you know, like people were saying things like that. Oh, well, you know, doctors do that. They're being lazy, or, you know, and you know, they would ask more questions. I said, well, you know, the cord was wrapped around the head and the neck, and this kind of, you know, kept the labor from progressing. They said, oh, you can push a baby out with the cord wrapped around. I'm like, okay, well, this is what happened. I didn't want to gamble with his life. And we had to get him here, you know. So I was surprised by that folks were like, you know, why didn't you just, you know, push kind of thing.
What?
So I just wanted to share that, like,
Right.
yes, you can be depressed by the plan changing, but it doesn't help when folks are not supportive of you doing what you have to do to make sure everybody's alive and well, you know.
That's all I wanted.
Get out.
I just have a couple of things to say. So wow, it was just so much information. I'm like lost now. So one thing about the Facebook groups, I try not to like post anything except for like when I see like a question specifically asking for advice, because sometimes on social media, people be in their feelings, and like you have to understand, if you post it in a public page, like people gonna say what they gonna say. So you can't always be in your feelings, sis. I'm sorry. But when people are like, oh, what can I feed my 3-year-old? Okay, that's an answer. That's a question that you want to answer to, right? So I'm gonna respond to this. When you post about, oh, my baby's skin's so dry, I'm so tired of this, is that a question? Because like some people comment with help, and then you upset. So like, what you want us to do, sis? Like, is this Twitter or is it Facebook? I'm confused. Another thing I had was about the judging or like comparison. So 2 things about it. One, I am so guilty of comparing Abigail to her peers. And it's not necessarily fair to Abigail for a couple of reasons. First, none of her peers are her age. So prior to meeting you all of Abigail's peers are older than her. And when I listen to her speech and I'm comparing her to like her speech to their speech, I'm like, oh, Abigail's not where she needs to be. She's not where she needs to be. And then I started doing something with my friends, like kids, and they're all Abigail's age. And I'm like, oh, Abigail's right where she's supposed to be, because she sounds just like all these other 4-year-olds, and none of them make sense right now, or they get excited, and we don't know if they speak English or French. But you know, when they calm down, we could hear them. And I was like, wow, I really had to like take a step back, or like even me, like wanting her to change gymnastics teachers because I wanted someone more militant, because everyone else in the gymnastics class was like 6 or 7 years old, and Abigail's 3 years old, and she's not following directions, and they keep having to call her name. But like, again, she's 3 and these kids are literally twice her age, you know? Mm-hmm. So I was very like detrimentally comparing her to other kids, and then punishing her for not acting twice her age. So I had to definitely like reel that in for a second and let her be her age, and like, hey, this is a learning curve for the both of us. And like, you're not going to come out the womb like obeying orders. Like I gave my mother a run for her money. So, you know, they say you get what you gave, right? And Lord, pray for me with this one. But that, and then a second thing was comparing So I was just talking to my therapist about this for me because, childhood issues. But I was specifically brought up because I read this meme that said, have you been told as a child or as a young teenager that you were like the smart one, you're going to make something of yourself, and then you felt like this overwhelming pressure to like make sure you fulfill those like hopes and dreams put on you by your parents and grandparents and aunties and uncles, so that now when something doesn't go according to that plan, you feel like a complete failure. And I was like, whoa, that's my whole life right now. Like, I was in second grade when I was like, oh, I want to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. And like, since I said that, it's like no one in my family has let me up on that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I'm allowed to be in second grade and say something, and I'm allowed to be a graduate of a graduate program and feel like I can still do what I want without going this route. Or I can do other things that would make me happy regardless, right? And I just realized that with Abigail, I was very focused on, oh, we're gonna find you something that you're good at and you're gonna stick to it. But then I was like, no, my only requirement is that now you finish a season. I don't care if you want to do soccer this season. I don't care if you now sis wants to do wrestling.
Okay.
I know a couple of female wrestlers. Well,
Look at me.
There was two when I went to high school. I think that's an interesting topic that
You're going to be right there cheering. Go ahead.
I'm a cheer for you, but when you get your first, baby teeth knocked out, remember my rule.
They coming out anyway.
That's right.
Remember my rule, though. You just have to finish the season. So hopefully wrestling's a shorter season. Because like nobody told you to pick this. But anyway, so that was my only rule. And my thing is like, you're a kid. You are allowed to like something and outgrow it. You are allowed to like something and like something else. And I'm going to give you that freedom to live and explore without judgment, without comparison to other kids, without, keeping you stuck to something that you decided about when you were 2 years old and you didn't know anything else. But what I am also going to do is I'm going to recognize talent and I'm going to grow on that talent, because sis is an Olympic swimmer in the making. So you going to keep swimming, but you can do whatever else you want to do outside of swimming, as long as it doesn't mess up your ability to swim. But yeah, definitely be careful with the comparison of your kids, the judging other moms and Facebook groups, because these women are crazy. Let me stop. We got a Facebook group if y'all want to join, but it's called For Mom For You. But we promise we're not crazy, or we do our best at handling the craziness.
Yeah. Earth, you have something you were talking about?
No, I think we probably should talk about parenting next, and like the different styles of parenting, because it's very interesting how you could, how different people parent their kids and the outcomes that you get from your kid and how they grow. So that'll be an interesting topic. But I think it's time for our little mommy minute.
Yeah, time to bring it on in. So for this week's Mommy Minute, we want to encourage you all to make an effort to connect or reconnect with women who support you, who encourage you, who mentor you, more importantly, hold you accountable and encourage you to stretch and grow. It might be a mentor, it might be family members, or just creating a network of mom friends who are just really there to back you and be a support. So we want you to have that. We believe that there's power in sisterhood. And we encourage you all to connect or reconnect with those women who just really inspire you to be the best you.
And that's a wrap on our first season of our second episode. We thank you guys for joining us. Be sure to like, follow, comment, and share.
Second season, first episode.
Second season.
Second season, first episode.
I'm just so excited to be back, y'all. I love our sister moms. We're back. Hey, have a good night.
Bye.
Good night.